Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down into bite-sized pieces. Today, we've got a pretty interesting story, and it comes from Forbes, where it states Visa applies for digital dollar blockchain patent. And if you thought that the Libra Foundation was rocket fuel for Bitcoin adoption, you ain't seen nothing yet. But before we get into that, let's do a little housekeeping. First up, I made a mistake yesterday. There is a 50% sale going on for the Nano Ledger, but that is for the Nano Ledger S, not the X. The X is the one with Bluetooth capabilities, and it sells for $119, but that one is only regular price at $119. The Nano Ledger S is the one without Bluetooth capabilities, and it sells for around $59, which now you can get it for around $29, which is pretty good. And the discount code is We Are the Bull Run, which is in the description below with my affiliate link and all that great stuff. So here's the thing. Sorry about that. I thought it was 50% for both, but it wasn't. So that's all on me. And I will just tell you this. Actually, Nano actually sent me the Ledger Nano X, and I used it in my video where I talked about how to use it and how to set things up. But after it was done, I actually just gave it away to my friend because I didn't need it. I like the other one, the one with the buttons. It's very simple to use and no problems with it. So still, it's a great deal. And if you want that, it'll be in the description. You can check it out, buy it. And I think the sale goes on for another couple days until May 17th. So check that out. The other housekeeping item was this. I received a comment from a gentleman by the name of Paul Willoughby. And he says, hey guys, some of you remember me. I'm the guy who actually trades for a living. And he states, buy the S&P 500. The market has been in a sideways accumulation pattern for the past 3 weeks. Just shut up and buy it. You're the dumb public thinking the world markets are doomed. You're wrong. Buy U.S. stocks. And he goes on to say, most of you are what we call dumb, smart money. You know enough to think you're smart, though you're actually brainwashed and dumb. Trust your gut, it always knows the truth. And then there was some comments below, which is pretty funny. Actually, I like this. There was one that's a really good one from, where'd it go? From Carl Johnson. He says, my gut feelings are flawless. When I buy, the price drops. When I sell, the price rises. I have a 100% hit rate. My gut never fails. So the reason why I pinned it, I just want to come back to it because as you know on this channel, I don't like to just live in an echo chamber and think that everything that I say is correct or everything that people around me say is correct. Because if we fall into that, then we're all just a bunch of lemmings. So we've got a person here who says, hey, you know what? I think that this is what's going to happen. So really what we have to do is just take a look at the S&P 500 and see what's going on. So over the last 6 months, we knew it took a big dive, but taking a look at a month, 5 days, and even the last, just today, it's actually been going up and going down, and kind of like to me, it looks like a square root pattern, not like a V shape. But it is interesting to see what could happen. Now, I'm not going to invest in the S&P 500. I have no ambition to do that. But it's interesting what this gentleman says about, hey, you're all stupid and that you should just, buy the S&P 500. I will say this, though. There was a tweet that was sent out, and this was from Thomas Lee. And he took a look at the 2019 and 2020 year-to-date returns. And Bitcoin, in generality, has been crushing everything else. It's crushed the NASDAQ, S&P 500, and gold, treasuries, credit, oil, everything else. So, I understand how people who are in the traditional markets are like, you need to do this because this is what you know. You need to do whatever. It's kind of like how if you go to a doctor, let's say he's a surgeon, he's going to be like, you know what we should do? Probably operate. Because when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So when I take a look at these types of things, I'm like, I don't see it. If I was an investor just coming in, I could go for the S&P 500 and maybe make some gains here over the next 20, 30 years or whatever it is. But if I have somebody who is taking a look and is in my best interest, taking a look like Fidelity Digital Assets, 2.4 trillion assets under management. You got Ameritrade, 1 trillion. Van Eck, and they talk about Bitcoin, Grayscale, and now even the Tudor Group. If you take a look at what has been happening over the last 2 years and even longer, you can tell, hopefully they can tell their clients and say, hey, look, Pete, I know we've steered you towards the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or whatever types of index that we have, but there's a new emerging asset class. It's called digital assets, and it's been crushing everything over the last 5-6 years. And we think that it's a pretty good idea just to put 2 to 5% of your portfolio into this, and we think it's going to offset some of the volatility in the markets that we see right now. And that's how I see it. Now, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section where your mind is at, but that's just how I see it. I think that I would much rather invest in something like this. However, having said that, I will show you the Bitcoin yearly candles from 2011 to 2020. And this is the open, 29 cents. This is the close, $5. Now, this is just looking at 365 days, all right? So massive in 2011, not too bad in 2012. 2013, huge. 2014, not so great. 2015, 16, 17, 18 took a dip, 19 and 20. However, I don't know if there's any asset out there that could compare to Bitcoin and digital assets. And then if you were like me in dollar cost averaging, you're not going to hit these types of huge gains or huge losses, but you're going to really insulate and protect yourself. Anyhow, that was just something that I saw. Let me know what you think in the comments section, because it's all good. All right, let's jump into today's story. So first up, Visa applies for digital dollar blockchain patent. This is by Jason Brett, and I always like to see who is actually writing these articles, because I know that there's some very smart people out there, but I'd like to know that people have history and they have the information, they have the resources to actually talk about these things. So who's Jason Brett? I've talked about him before. Let's take a look at his profile. So Jason Brett's a former U.S. regulator with the FDIC, compliance examiner for the HAMP, or the Making Home Affordable program with the Treasury, and has been active in Bitcoin and everything else. And I could read his whole profile, but he's been in the game for a long time. He's been a regulator. He knows what's going on. So when he talks about these different things as far as like blockchain, patents, and government regulation, I tend to trust him. So let's take a look at what he said. So let's just scroll down. So this is described as digital fiat currency, and they're talking about the patent. The patent was initially filed by Visa on November 8th, 2019, quite a little bit ways away. But the USPTO, the patent office, commented today. It says, hey, it takes quite a while to publish the filing of any patent. Visa's patent is described as a central entity computer that receives requests that include the serial number and denomination of a physical currency, the creation of the digital currency, and the removal of the physical currency from circulation in a fiat currency system is recorded on a blockchain. So here's what's going on. Essentially what's going to happen is everything's going to be tracked. You're going to have a digital currency, a digital dollar, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be a digital wallet. And once these things go about, they're going to destroy, or actually not destroy, but hinder the amount of physical currency that is in circulation as things move forward. So you have to remember, are you okay with that? Are you okay with being tracked everywhere? Because I see this as a big tracking tool. It's just me. Anyhow, moving on. J. Christopher Giancarlo, who is the former chairman of the U.S. CFTC. He states this confirms when the U.S. does big things like the space program and the internet, there are partnerships between the private and the public sector. This patent filing is evidence the private sector is very much at work on the future of money. So when I read this, I thought to myself, that's very true. You know, when we have different huge tasks upon us, the government isn't great at doing everything. They just can't do it. And they need the private sector to come in and help. And he says it beautifully. He says, hey, look, the same thing happened with NASA, and the same things happen in different types of ventures. So for everyone out there that says the government will shut down cryptocurrency, I just don't think it's going to happen. And in my opinion, no one can do it all. Also, for the government to shut down cryptocurrency, they have to shut down the internet itself. So if they can do that, and then some people will always say this, they'll say, well, what about an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse that would come out and just destroy all the computers? I'm like, look, Jack, if an EMP comes about and wipes out all the computers in the world, The problem isn't Bitcoin. You can have much bigger problems with no electricity, no internet, and everything else. So that's the least of my problems if that actually does happen. Second thing is, have you experienced an EMP? Because I sure haven't. Anyhow, but when we talk about these things, I remember the same argument when the internet came into being. Remember, I'm old. And I was around when the internet wasn't around, and I had to use this thing called the Dewey Decimal System when I went to the library. And if you know which that is, you're old. Anyhow, but people said that the government thrives when information is suppressed, and they would never allow the internet to come about, because then everybody would have this information, and we would all be like super smart, and we would overthrow the government. Well, that just didn't happen. And the same thing is being said for cryptocurrency. Now, again, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section, but that's just how I see it. So my question is this. Do you believe the government can actually shut down crypto, honestly? Or is this just a natural progression of what Visa is trying to do as far as the monetary system in general, and that we have the private sector and governments working together to essentially bring about a new change? That's the question. All right, so Congress considered the idea of a digital dollar when debating the CARES Act, the third COVID-19 relief package. Although the digital dollar was not included in the final legislation, thank God, separate bills have been introduced in both the House and the Senate that looks to legally create a digital dollar at the Federal Reserve and also a digital dollar wallet at the U.S. Treasury. That's pretty interesting. So the Treasury would essentially make this digital dollar wallet, and the Federal Reserve would be in control of all the ledger. So you'd have two organizations working together. Now, the U.S. Treasury is government-based. The Federal Reserve is about as federal as Federal Express. They're just a bunch of bankers. So it'd be interesting how those two again would work together, and I'm glad it didn't happen, because can you imagine the government being in charge of putting together a wallet that was unhackable and being able to explain to people like how this works and how this is going to happen? No way. Anyhow, moving forward, the full abstract of the patent filed by Visa described it as this. Techniques are disclosed when including receiving by a central entity computer. So that's the big thing. A central entity computer. Not nodes all over the place, not decentralized, but a centralized entity computer. A request for digital currency. The request includes a serial number and a denomination of a physical currency. Tracking. The central entity computer generates the digital currency for the denomination and linked to the serial number. Tracking. Visa's patents go on to state that the generating includes recording the digital currency on a blockchain. The central entity computer transmits a notification of the generation of the digital currency. The central entity computer causes removal of the physical currency from circulation in a fiat currency system. So again, they just take the paper dollar out of circulation. So great. And here's the actual abstract, which I'll probably put on the thumbnail. Anyhow, this is the interesting part. The patent further describes the workings of a digital wallet and a blockchain. Digital wallet includes a public and a private key pair, while the blockchain is described as including a plurality of blocks. At least one block of the plurality of blocks is a first record indicating that the digital currency for an amount associated with the denomination has been created, as well as a public key associated with the digital wallet. So the first recording, you're going to have the record that this has been created with a public key. The second record in the blockchain describes recording the removal of the physical currency from circulation. And here's the actual schematic that they submitted to the patent office. And I took a look at this. I'm like, this kind of looks like a cartoon. But yeah, okay, if that's how it works in patent offices, great. So that is it in a nutshell. And now we're going to talk about, real quick, how Visa has been behind the scenes and is heavily active in blockchain. So Visa's made previous major announcements keeping a close eye on the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem. Last year, Visa was originally announced as a member of the new Libra Association, but they withdrew. And then last year in June, Visa announced it was entering the $125 trillion cross-border business-to-business transaction market using DLT, a distributed ledger technology. And that's bad news for SWIFT. And as you know, SWIFT is a Belgian organization, started in 1973 with 11,000 11,000 financial institutions. They currently serve 11,000 financial institutions conducting business-to-business transactions. However, SWIFT has been criticized for its legacy systems and inefficiencies, which to me is still amazing that it is still around. With the huge advancements that we have done, SWIFT has slowly upgraded, but really hasn't gotten there. So this is the type of blockchain and cryptocurrency that XRP is trying to serve, that Stellar is trying to serve, that IBM is trying to serve with its WorldWire. So when we hear about these things, now Visa's in the fray. Hey, this is good news. And it's good news, and I'll tell you why. And additionally, in February this year, Visa announced it had granted permission to Coinbase, the exchange, that they would permit them to issue a debit card where individuals could spend their crypto through the card. So Visa is looking at a lot of different things, and they have their hands on a lot of different cookie jars. And I will just say this. Just like Libra, last year, Facebook's Libra project, it spurred adoption, and it actually spurred Bitcoin to reach new highs. With this, I believe that is going to spur even more price increases as announcements get made and Visa starts to roll out things. So when people look at this, they're like, oh, this is bad because it's going to destroy all cryptocurrency. No, it's not. That's not what's going to happen. The masses, not you and me, we are early. All right, we are early adopters. Let's just call a spade a spade. All right, we are innovators. We like to look at new things and go, I like that. I'm going to use that. Let's make this to its ultimate potential. The masses, though, need a stepping stone to understand blockchain, and Visa might be it. Now, here's my question. Do you think that Visa can handle everything out there having to do with currency, having to do with blockchain, having to do with digital assets? Can they tokenize everything? Can they tokenize, different properties and landscapes and skyscrapers? Can they be a part, and can they deal with all cross-border payments, all smart contracts, all chain supply tracking, all decentralized finance, and all currency? You are out of your mind. So Visa coming into the space is not going to destroy everything. It's going to shed a light on blockchain and digital assets. And I, for one, am totally excited. Look, even if they fail, it pushed us, digital asset cryptocurrency people, into the public consciousness and gets us out of the shadow of Silk Road, drug cartels, and money laundering, all that other nonsense, which is just ridiculous. So to me, we need to move away from that as fast as possible. And I am in marketing. I do all the marketing for all my businesses, and it doesn't matter your product. It's all how you market it. It could be an awful product, but if you got good marketing, hey, seems to work out okay. So here's my question. What's the best hamburger in your town? Is it Frisco's down the street? Is it Johnny Rogers or whatever it is that has this really great bacon burger or whatever else that you like, and it's got this perfect cheese and it's a very local, trendy hangout? Which one is it? Well, I don't know where you're at. I've talked about this before. I have no idea where you live in the United States, in Germany, or whatever else, Australia. I can tell you the best hamburger is McDonald's. It's McDonald's. I didn't say the best tasting. I didn't say the best made. I didn't say the best prepared, all that stuff. I said the best hamburger. And if you're going to look at how many billions are served and how much revenue is produced, it's McDonald's hands down. You know why? It's because they are great at marketing. They are great at location. They are great at sticking a ton of people in a small amount of area and getting them to buy that horrible food. And that's just how they do it. And why? Because of marketing. So, speaking of old shadows of crypto and the problems that we have to get away from, one more article. So this was from You Today, from a man, Alex Davnia, Australian woman charged with illegally exchanging $5 million for Bitcoin. And I bring this up for a specific reason, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. So real quick, this lady was caught red-handed with more than $60,000 in cash and 3.8 Bitcoin found in her purse in her car. All this ill-gotten money was confiscated. In addition, the police seized computers and digital wallets after conducting a search at her property in Sydney. And I read this, I go, wow, 3.8 Bitcoin found in her purse. Now, we all know what that means, but people like my mom, who I'm talking about as far as mass adoption and the general public, she's going to be pretty confused about this. And this is why we need to get away from this type of nonsense. So, moving on, Matt Kraft, the detective superintendent of Australia's cybercrime squad, said this president should serve as a stark reminder for such companies that they have to meet their legal obligation. He states, "Let this arrest be a warning to digital currency exchange providers. If you fail to comply with your obligations, your actions will not go unnoticed." Dun, dun. Kraft also noted that criminals are increasingly turning to digital currencies, but cash remains king. And yeah, cash is king. And you know who rules that court? I'm going to show you who rules that court. People like Wells Fargo, who were a part of this huge major fraud scandal. The CFPB fined the company combined $185 million. As a result of their illegal activity, the company has faced additional civil and criminal suits, reaching an estimated $2.7 billion by the end of 2018. And let's not forget JP Morgan and their $30 billion in fines and counting scandal. And also, we'll take a look at Bank of America, where they had to pay $16.6 billion in historic justice during their fraud lending during the financial crisis. So all these different things comes back to this. The reason why I bring this up is because invariably, as we start to rocket higher during the year, and I'm going to make things very clear here, I do not believe that the traditional market and cryptocurrency digital assets, our market, is going to explode anytime soon. I think we're going to have a little bit of a pump, but we're going to see a major correction. Big correction, major correction, small correction, something like that, or even trade sideways. I don't see how this market can sustain itself. I think it's a lot of hopium, especially in the traditional market and S&P 500. With this coronavirus and the different hardships for the economic downturn, I do not see things getting to normalcy anytime soon. If we didn't have these issues, I could see the cryptocurrency market, digital asset market, skyrocketing within 6 months. But we're not there. It's a different time. The world has changed. We need to move on. So the reason I brought up this whole article and talked about everything is because as time moves on and we do start to see that spike, those parabolic moves, all your friends and family who made fun of you for investing into crypto, they're going to come back to be like, hey, what's up with this Bitcoin? I heard this thing called Ethereum. Never heard of that before. It's crazy. What about Chainlink? And you're going to have to answer some questions. And of course, we want to be nice, but they're invariably going to ask you about, I hear this is for laundering money and drug cartels and Silk Road. It's going to happen. So when they say that, I want to inform you of all the different scandals that the banks do. And any kind of scandal or any kind of money laundering that happens in our space is 10x, 100x, 1000x in traditional markets. That's what I want you to tell everybody because it's the truth. All right, so that's it for today's video. I want to say thanks for stopping by and listening to me and going through all the rants. I really appreciate it. Before we sign off, I want to say thank you to all my supporters. If you don't know, if you click below there's a little join button. And it's not, I don't put anything in like members only stuff. I don't believe in that. I give the same thing. It's more like a tip. So level 1, it's a couple bucks, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody. Level 2 pays a little bit more, and I give a little shout out. So I want to say shout out to All Right Softs, myself, Hulse, Dave Plummer, the Straight Talking Guy, which you guys should check out his channel, Grant Sharman, and one more to the mix, Bruce Wood. That's a good name, Bruce Wood. Bruce Wood. But that's it for today. Again, thanks for watching. If you like these types of videos, 2 more is going to pop up on your left and right. Don't know what they are. They're viewed for your YouTube viewing pleasure. And that's it. So thanks a lot. See you on the next one.